Welcome to episode 87 Desires. Sorry, this episode isn't about sex, although if you have on closed captioning, you might come to a different conclusion. In episode 10, I talked about wants and needs and desires. Since then, I've brought up wants and needs in several episodes, such as 65, 73, 84, 86, and 92. But excepting perhaps a couple of those episodes, it's been all about other people's wants. So, what about mine? What do I want? Or even more to the point, what is it that my heart desires? A good world? Nah, that's not up to me. To the extent I can, bearing in mind human frailties, I try to live my life in a good way. By that I mean I try to do what I can to contribute to the long-term survival prospects of the planet and its inhabitants by respecting their existence. That includes, per what I described in episode 33, trying to help others, especially those less fortunate than me, because I don't know who or whose offspring will be influential in the provision of a creative spark that contributes to the long-term survival prospects of the earth and her people. All I can do is try. All you can do is try. If enough people try, then perhaps our species survive. If not, then that's just this Earth's fate. If you think that's fatalistic and that you can influence the Earth's fate, I'm not stopping you from proving me wrong by showing that your Earth of constant conflict and people harming each other does survive long term. To me, the inhabitants of such an earth full with conflict will eventually destroy themselves or destroy the planet and thus its inhabitants. But putting the diversion aside and getting back to the subject of desires, what do I desire? Internal joke. Good luck. All I want is to have somebody to trust, because that opens up the possibility of that person becoming more than just an acquaintance or buddy or even a friend. But in a game of life, how can you trust anyone when you feel you are always the mark? Internal joke. Join a union and organize, right? My trust issues run deep. I was discussing love at first sight with someone recently who believes in the concept. I told the person that I used to believe it was possible, but now I believe you have to be friends first. Like Damian Marley said, a lot of people become unattractive once you find out how they think. That saying came forcefully to my mind recently, internal joke, by good luck, while I was visiting someone. Actually, I was visiting someone who believes that love at first sight is possible. So I asked, if you can, if once you find out how they think, they become less attractive to you, then how can it be love at first sight? Because, in my thinking, don't you need to have to get to know them first? That's plainly logical, right? And I thought of some of the seemingly illogical ways the balls move on a pool table during a game. Internal joke. Pool? That's what you think of in the middle of a discussion on desires? Man, it's your mind that's illogical. Well, a ball on a pool table is supposed to go in a certain direction depending on the angle at which you hit it with a cue ball. But the end result on a table can seem unusual to the point of being illogical sometimes. Until you rationalize that if there is a possibility of it happening, then if it happens, it cannot be illogical. And that's when it hit me. What's different between conflict and, say, love? Like I brought up in episodes 3 and 15, conflict destroys. There's no possibility of a seemingly illogical outcome of no destruction unless the conflict eventually ceases. You can't destroy your way to a homogeneous, no conflict state. It's not just that oppressed people remember things, and for generations and for upon generations, it's that those who commit the oppression also remember for generations upon generations, even without acknowledgement. But anyway, going back to desires from this yet another diversion, I was about to contemptuously almost assert there can be no love at first sight because the logic of you having to get to know how they think first is undisputed. End of discussion. But then I thought, how about those few, even if extremely rare, times when it does occur? If it can happen, it cannot be illogical if it happens. And there have been times, at least I've heard, when two individuals just really look at each other for the first time and they just know that they will be in love with each other for the rest of their lives. Perhaps at that first meeting, they looked not just into each other's eyes, but into each other's soul, and they both just knew. What did they know? They both just knew that they would always like how the other think. What a fucking intense experience that is. Man, enough of these diversions. Stay on topic. Okay, what is it I desire? Internal joke. Listen, the topic is desires, okay? Not what you desire.